And we're live, guys. Welcome to the chat, everybody. It is our Monday, 2 p.m. New Zealand time live stream. I know for a lot of you guys it's going to be the evening, so thanks to everyone who's taken a bit of time out of their day to jump in here and join the chat. Really appreciate everyone's time. And today we're going to be talking about all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to be talking about over-the-counter Bitcoin. This is a big part of the equation that doesn't really get talked about very much, but it's so important to actually be talking about these things. And we're going to be talking about looking out for good things to buy in Dipland. So we're getting into all that stuff and more. Really exciting to see everyone in the chat here today. Welcome everybody. Someone asking, are you going to have an interview with AdBank? I will be. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for it. For all the AdBank fans out there, it is on the way. Now, before we jump into talking about OTC Bitcoin, I have a little video for you guys.
Hi, Satoshi Nakamoto here, having coffee at the Truth Cafe in Cape Town, South Africa, where I pay with Bitcoin, the currency of the future.
I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. I invented Bitcoin. I have more money than Rwanda. I'm Craig Wright, the real Satoshi.
Cut it out, Craig. Just show me your private keys.
Join me in... Oh, goodness. Okay, so, guys, that is a small example video for you on what I want to see. I'm putting together a video project, and I really want you guys, in fact, I need your help to put this video project together. I'm going to call it Unmasking Satoshi. I've already got a few submissions for it. Essentially, what I would really love to see from you guys would be you talking about what Bitcoin means to you or how you use Bitcoin in your life. Something quite short, like 20 seconds. Feel free to get a little crazy, a little creative, and just finish it off with something like, I love to buy my Bitcoin, or I love to buy my coffee using Bitcoin. I am Satoshi Nakamoto. And I'll put all this together and make a really cool video. But I can only make that really cool video with your help, guys. So you got to actually send these videos through. I know it can be a little scary making a video, but if you have a halfway decent smartphone, chances are that's all the audio and visual quality that you need in order to make a cool video. So you don't have to have a big professional setup like I've got here. Just a phone should be enough. They don't have to be super professional, guys. It's just really you guys participating and being part of that video. So I'd really love to see it. I've already got 2 submissions. I'd love to see some more, though. Speaking of video submissions, by the way, the NAC3 Conference. So the final video submissions for winning 2 free tickets valued at $400. This is June 23rd in San Francisco. The final submission date is on the 10th, so go ahead and get those through to me, guys. I'd love to see some videos. They don't have to be anything serious or big. Again, just use your smartphone. It's not so hard. Just make a short video saying why you should be the one to win the tickets to come to the conference. There's going to be a lot of great speakers there. Carter Thomas, Crypto Bobby. I'm going to be there talking about social impact and blockchain. So it'd be really awesome to see you guys there. Even if you're not feeling quite brave enough to put yourself on camera, you can still just grab a ticket. Like I said, they're $200. So not too expensive for a cryptocurrency conference, without a doubt. Okay, and on to our first big story of the day, and kind of the first half of our topic today. Crypto Brad says tickets and flights. No, my friend, just the tickets, unfortunately. Just the tickets. Maybe one of these days I'll be so crypto rich I'll be able to fly you guys out to these conferences too. That would also be awesome, but unfortunately just the tickets. So if you're on the West Coast, or if you're feeling like flying out to a conference, it's on a Saturday, so it should be easy enough for most people to get there anyway. But anyway, welcome everyone. So, over-the-counter Bitcoin. Everyone keeps asking, basically, when institutional investors, when Lambo, Lark. Well, the thing is that 14 DMG, tickets and beer. Yeah, I'll throw in a couple beers, so that's part of the deal. That's part of the deal. I'm happy to throw in a couple of beers for whoever the winners are. Everyone keeps asking, when are the institutional investors coming? Well, the big secret here is that they're already in. And this is something that I think not enough people realize, is that the institutional investors, they're already part of the party. The big difference is, though, they're not going to exchanges. When you want to buy $100 million worth of Bitcoin, you don't go to Coinbase. Well, you might actually go to Coinbase now. Coinbase is actually instituting institutional level buying services because they see the potential for the institutional market. And the institutional market is going to be absolutely huge. It already is absolutely huge. But it doesn't move the ticker every day. This is the thing, is like CoinMarketCap, it's set up with APIs feeding in from all of the key exchanges. And so when an over-the-counter deal happens in the back alley of China somewhere, because China's got a lot of back alleys, but when that happens, then it doesn't move the markets. But they're buying. They're buying. Buy Crypto Pig says institutional investors are here to take our money, not to save us. Yes and no. Yes and no. Institutional investors are not the savior that a lot of people think they are. And I think that's an important thing to point out. And I appreciate you putting that in there. But at the same time, institutional investors love this market right now. But they're not afraid to buy at high prices. That's something to keep in mind. When Bitcoin gets to $50,000, they're still going to be buying it. Well, they'll probably be selling because a lot of them have been buying down here as the weak hands are being shaken out of the market and people are selling their Bitcoin at $6,000, $6,500, $7,000, and they're not willing to hold on to it for those later potential gains. But the institutional investors, a big part of this picture too, it's not just the banks. I mean, hey, screw the banks, right? But you also have to really account for the high net worth individuals. Those guys are also not going to Coinbase and buying $100 million worth of Bitcoin. They are going to these OTC desks and they're getting their Bitcoin there. It's pretty hard to put down an order for $100 million on Coinbase without really screwing the markets up. CJ James, isn't that also market manipulation? Look, there's a lot of different ways in which the market is manipulated. By keeping trades off of the markets, I wouldn't necessarily call that manipulation, but it is definitely a factor that comes into distorting the actual price and actual demand for these crypto assets. And we're just talking about Bitcoin here, guys, but you start going down the line, the OTC markets also exist for a lot of the other top cryptocurrencies, Ripple and Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, and right on down the line for a lot of the top ones. So that OTC market is big. Really, really big. And it's more peer-to-peer. The thing is, the exchanges really are these middlemen that are a recreation of old models. And on the one hand, it lets us actually get in there and be part of that. But something like local Bitcoins, for example, is kind of more of a peer-to-peer OTC desk because we're just trading person to person. And that's kind of a lot of what's happening with these OTC trades, is that someone's getting the Bitcoin and then selling it to these big guys because they have the connections to be able to get the volume. And that's where it comes in. We've covered a lot of stories on the show about the OTC market exploding in China after the hammer came down last year. The Chinese government is completely incapable of stopping cryptocurrency buying and selling happening in China. It's just gone underground. It's become probably cooler. This is what usually happens. You ban something and it becomes 10 times cooler. Tell your kids not to smoke. Next day they're smoking. Normal situation. Pedro says, Fusion landed a $12 billion deal for crypto assets. This is extremely big. I agree, Pedro. I saw that story, I think, last night. So Fusion's scored a pretty sweet deal there, and gonna make them a big... It definitely adds a lot of value to their overall project. So definitely really, really cool to see that happening for Fusion. Mr. Hey Lasagna says the downplaying of the OTC market is what's manipulative. Acting like it's not happening is the real manipulation. Well said, sir. That is an important thing to continue to point out. The OTC market happens every single day. Millions of Bitcoin are not even hitting the exchanges. They're simply moving back and forth across the OTC market. And that is a big part of the picture. Pump It Dump It says, Lark, can you discuss how the markets are moving? We keep getting these flat lines and 1 minute pumps. Seems like manipulation. What do you think? Zoom out, man. Zoom out is what I think. If you're looking at, the 1 minute charts for Bitcoin, zoom out. That would be perhaps a thought for you. And we're going to talk about that a bit later on in the chat. We're going to talk about the OTC stuff first, but a bit later on, I want to really talk about looking at the market as it is right now and also kind of expanding out and thinking, well, what's kind of good to be getting in the current market? But we'll get to that a bit later. T, thank you very much for the contribution, and thank you for your continued effort, says T. Thank you for keeping to watch the videos. It's an honor to have all of you guys here listening to me talk about cryptocurrencies on the internet. I love it. Couldn't ask for anything else, guys. At CryptoLark, if institutional investors buying crypto isn't affecting the price, then how will they receive a return on their investment? Sean, one of the things is, it's not that it doesn't affect the price overall. It's just that you're not seeing the price effect coming through on a day-to-day basis on CoinMarketCap or in a lot of the exchanges because it's not crossing over the exchanges where all the APIs are hooked up. And so this situation, they're going to sell for a profit later to potentially another OTC client. Imagine billionaire A buys Bitcoin for $6,000. He buys 100,000 of them. Billionaire B buys that Bitcoin from him a few weeks later at $8,000. It never crosses the market. It's just two dudes exchanging Bitcoin and large amounts of fiat money from one bank account to another. So that's why it kind of distorts the market as we see it now. Seb, I thought I was watching the Bitcoin chart, but I kept on seeing Bart Simpson. Great stuff. Great stuff. Now, as you start to look around, though, there's a lot of stories. And this was actually really interesting when I was talking to Mike Kayamori from Coin the other day. And this is one of the things that he was saying is that there's just so much demand out there, they can't meet the demand. And the demand that's going on, a lot of that is from these really high net worth individuals. It's not just the banks. The banks are getting into that. We've seen JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs doing their little forays into it, and a lot of other big institutions. But I'm telling you, it's the high net worth individuals. It's the billionaires in China. It's the billionaires in Japan, the billionaires in the US. These guys are getting involved. Spencer, what's up? Welcome to the party, brother. Welcome to the party. Kalana, how's it going? Francisco, talk about how much of a Bitcoin maximalist you are out of 100%. What kind of question is that, Francisco? I think any kind of maximalism is not necessarily a positive thing anyway. You should always be open-minded and be open to other opportunities. I did a video talking about my portfolio a few weeks ago, and I've only got about 20% of my portfolio in Bitcoin. If I was a Bitcoin maximalist, I'd probably have a lot more of my portfolio in Bitcoin. As much as I love Bitcoin, you can't detract from all of these other projects out there which are delivering so much value to the space. And then there's a lot of projects that don't deliver massive amounts of value to the space. You have to watch out for those. There's definitely both of them out there. Pivx looking cheap. Lark, what are your thoughts on A-Chain? Haven't had a chance to look into it. Bitcoin and the altcoins were awesome last year. Even the crap coins are up 1,000%. We need a bull run like that again, says Crazy Creeper Flame. The in it for the bull run kind of thing. This is a question that I guess I get a lot because so many people out there are just, get out there and, it's got to be bull run now or got to be a millionaire now and all this stuff. Well, it's a slower game than that. And I know everyone gets really excited when they see massive growth happening, overnight growth happening. Oh my God, it's went up 200%. I'm a genius and I'm a millionaire now. This is great. Well, yes and no. The thing is that this consolidation period that we've been in, I'm freaking loving it. I'm loving it, man. This is great. I wish it would last for longer. I have the opposite anxiety I feel a lot of people do. I don't want the bull run to come soon. I want it to wait longer so I can keep buying stuff when it's so gosh darn cheap. We can wait on the bull run, guys. Okay, on to our next one here. You see also a lot of services that are coming on board to help ease the pain of getting into this. And that's all these different custody services that we see coming on board. And this has been a really big trend recently. This was kind of one of the big announcements out of Consensus, was the formation of this group together to work on custody of Bitcoin. And the custody is really, when it comes down to it, focusing on a lot of these big players, the high net worth individuals, the institutions, et cetera, et cetera. They want to know that they can outsource their security to someone. I'm all about keeping my own private keys, but at the same time, I can kind of see where Joe Blow billionaire is coming from. Like, I want to invest in that, and I want to make sure it's safe. And that's it. I want to make a phone call and have someone sell it. I don't want to be sitting here playing with my ledger and whatever. No, I'm not looking at it like that. And a lot of these guys aren't. They're looking at it as investment opportunities, right? Spin FX 007. How do you support projects if you're in it for the bull run? You have to sell off and therefore aren't supporting the projects. Well, just because you sell a project doesn't mean that you're not supporting it. In fact, the fact that you invested it in the first place means that you supported that project. That's something to keep in mind. And just because you sell it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, especially if you've been holding on to it for a while. I think that kind of shows an extra level of support, and if you engage with the community somehow, well, that's an extra level of support. But don't emotionally attach yourself to these cryptocurrencies. Remember, they are tools. You wouldn't fall in love with your wrench, for example. I dream a dream of falling in love with my wrench. No. A lot of these are financial instruments, guys. Bitcoin's a tool. As much as I love Bitcoin, I'm not going to go out and marry Bitcoin. Bitcoin, won't you marry me? No. It is a tool, guys. It's a financial tool. And you got to remember to look at it as a financial tool. Something to keep in mind. Tarek J. Hey, Lark, in your opinion, not financial advice, LOL, what is a decent amount of Elastos to invest in? Do you think 100 to start with is a good amount? Tarek, that question is 110% subjective to you, my friend. I have no idea how much money you have. I have no idea what else you're invested in. And I have no idea what you want out of Elastos. Is it a good amount for you? I don't know. For some people, having one Elastos is going to be a good amount. It depends on what you can afford. It depends on what kind of income you're on. Just a thought for you. A lot of these questions, coming out here and asking, do you think it's good to have 100 of these? I don't know. Maybe if you're a millionaire, maybe you should have 1,000 of them. Not financial advice, of course. But just a thought, man. It really comes down to a personal choice. And never let anyone out here tell you what to do. A few guys talking about the deep brain chain mining. Haven't had much chance to look into that yet. Agarther Asgard. Bitcoin is not a tool. Well, it is, guys. What's the purpose of Bitcoin? It's to buy things. Or whether it's to invest, then it's a tool to make you richer. I say it's a tool because don't become emotionally attached to these things. There is a movement behind Bitcoin, which is the idea of decentralization. And that is a fantastic ideal, and I absolutely love it. But you just have to keep it real out there, guys. And this is one of the things I feel like we kind of get a bit caught up in sometimes, is not keeping it real when it comes down to it. John Peters, thanks for the contribution. Thoughts on Walton Coin? Mo Bing speaking on a panel at China's Great Hall. Same building as President Xi. I haven't looked into Walton Coin very much at all recently, to be honest, John. And I know that the supply chains overall have really fantastic utility, and I'm a big supporter of the whole idea of supply chain and blockchain together. They're just like a match made in heaven. But I haven't looked into it too much recently, so I can't tell you. I haven't been following the news on Walton Chain too closely. Okay. Let's move on. So, by the way, Chinese angel investor gathers 10,000 Bitcoin during the bear market, Q1 2018, because of course he does. That's a lot of Bitcoin, by the way. And Brazil's largest brokerage firm may be launching an OTC Bitcoin exchange. I think we're going to see a lot of this, too, in the OTC market. These are my, I guess, closing thoughts on the OTC conversation. But it's expanding. New markets are being opened up all the time for the OTC market. New OTC clients are being reached all the time. And man, there's a lot of money out there. There's so much money out there, especially amongst the top. And it's something I've said a few times, and I think it's just worth repeating. If you're selling your Bitcoin at $6,000, $7,000, you are just selling to these billionaires and institutions so that they can sell it back to you or people like you later for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, wherever, of course, Bitcoin ends up at in the near short term. Bitcoin is digital gold. Power equals money. CJ James asks, how do you feel about AI ICOs? Is it too soon to start investing in these types of projects due to the very long-term hold? Great question, CJ. And I think this is actually quite applicable to a lot of the projects that we see coming up in the ICO market. Some of these are honestly pretty early to the game. And hey, I am a big fan of like SingularityNet. I think it's really cool. Dr. Ben Goldsel, he's a very clever dude, and I like the Sophia robot prop they have to take around places and to talk to people. Well, that's kind of cool. And the whole concept of building up AI and building up the potential for the machine learning marketplace really is awesome. But at the same time, they're a little bit early to the show. But I think better to be early to the show and get your stuff worked out before then. But as far as an investor into these ICOs, it's a tricky one, 110% tricky, because you can easily see situations where great vision, great idea, but unless you have something really thought-provoking to dump on the market straight away and really come in, you might lose on the ICO. And this is, I guess, a question on ICOs in general is don't be afraid to miss out on ICOs, guys. And I know I talk about quite a few ICOs here on the channel. And I tell you this, I talk about way more ICOs than I actually invest in personally. And it's not because, I don't like them or whatever it might be. This is part of my investigation and part of my mission to help give people unbiased information and help educate you guys and, or at least give information for people so they make their own decisions. And so I research these projects and then make a video based on the research that I've done. But that doesn't mean that I'm running out and buying every single one of those ICOs that I cover, because some of them I just think, well, I don't know. I go over the pros and cons and I record them on the video. And sometimes I think, am I going to do that or not? And sometimes I think about it. Like, recently I had one where I was just kind of going back and forth on it for a few weeks, and actually it kind of came up to near the end of the sale, and I saw, well, I hadn't actually sold very much, and the bonus was pretty good, and they've actually changed the metrics a little bit, so yeah, you know what, I'm going to throw a little bit into that and just kind of see what happens. But yeah, don't be afraid to miss out on ICOs, because most of them end up on the market at a lower price. Only a few really take off. Like when Quark Chain comes out, it'll probably hit the market at like 5x or something like that, and then it'll only go up from there, I would imagine, anyway. Until, of course, the next hot new thing comes along, and then it kind of quiets off for a little bit, and it'll take a while to get back around to there, so. Miroslav says, Bitcoin wouldn't have been only a financial tool for you if you had a really corrupt government. Yes and no, Miroslav. The thing is that it is, if you have a really corrupt government, then it is the perfect financial tool for you. It really is. You see what's been going on in Zimbabwe. It lets people access markets overseas. You see what's going on in Venezuela. It lets people open up a food line. That's an amazing tool to have. Hey, Crypto Lark, have you heard about Binance giving some airdrops to EOS holders? I have not heard about if they're going to be covering any of the airdrops or not. Obviously, the 110% sure way to make sure you're getting those airdrops is to have your EOS in the relevant wallet. I don't know what kind of deals different exchanges will have, and it'll probably be different on different exchanges. I would hope that any of the exchanges that have come out and said, hey, we're going to support the mainnet launch would support a few of those airdrops at least, if not all of them, but there's zero guarantee of that. You have to remember that for Binance and for a lot of these other exchanges, it is big time money for them to do listings. These listings go for hundreds of thousands, if not up to $1 million to get your coin listed on some of these places. I know a lot of different numbers are thrown out there, and I think it's probably a different deal for different projects, without a doubt, and there's different forms of those deals, but so I wouldn't imagine they would support every single airdrop because they've got an economic model based on listing projects. So Jacob says, no airdrops on exchanges so far. You need to hold in a registered wallet. That is the only way, of course, you will be sure to get your airdrops. Remember that. Can you review Hacken, says Parm. I actually talked to the guys from Hacken a few weeks ago, Parm. I think Hacken's really cool. Massive need for what they're doing in the cryptocurrency markets. You see the crazy amount of scams going on. And their crypto exchange rankings coming up is going to be pretty awesome. And again, Parm, I've talked to the team at Hacken about both the CER and their security measures as well, so... EOS fanboy. Lark, I'm an institutional investor. I buy OTC and sell on the exchanges to optimize my profits. If that's the case, if you make it work for you, there's a lot of profit to be had out there. This is the thing, is that some people will be doing those very short, probably arbitrage opportunities of being able to buy on the OTC markets and then change it out very quickly thereafter. Crypto Knight, Lark, what are your thoughts on Roger Ver and BCH? Crypto Knight, you're trying to get me in trouble, aren't you? Look, I got nothing on Roger Ver, to be honest. Roger Ver does what he does, but Bitcoin Cash overall, I feel, has moved in a negative direction. And the fact that Roger is openly supporting Craig Wright, and I'm sure that I'm going to get lots of flack down in the comment section later on, because every time I seem to mention Craig Wright, people come out of the woodwork defending Craig Wright. Remember, this is the guy who claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto, brags about having more money than Rwanda, but cannot prove that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. And if anybody actually thinks that Craig Wright is too humble to be Satoshi Nakamoto, if he really was, yeah, he does not strike me as the kind of character. And it's not about coming out here and trying to do a hit job on Bcash or anything like that. Look, Bitcoin Cash, if they were just to sit back and develop Bitcoin Cash to be the best iteration of Bitcoin Cash that it could be, then my hat off to Bitcoin Cash. I would love to see them just, okay, you guys want to do 32 megabyte blocks? You just rock it, man. You guys do you. Stop being out there pushing this agenda that you're pushing. It hurts them so much, and it surprises me that they can't see how much they're hurting themselves and how much they've turned the community against them by what they've done and what they continue to do. And the fact that they're letting Craig Wright be a frontman for Bitcoin Cash, I really feel just says so much about what they're trying to do over at Bitcoin Cash. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. We're going to move on to talk about how to think about what to try and get in these markets at the moment. Because I get asked this question a lot, Lark, if you had X amount of money, what would you throw at? Well, the answer is, of course, always, well, I would invest that money in what I had researched diligently and truly believed in as a project. And that is basically my portfolio, is all projects that I've spent a lot of time researching and engaging with the communities and all these different things. So let's have a quick look here at the Bitcoin USD charts. Now, recently, this is, of course, taking us all the way back to October. You can see, of course, the massive bull run that we did have back in December with these massive one-day candles just absolutely exploding here. But recently, we have had a slight trend reversal, which could be quite interesting as a sign. Now, look, all it takes is the markets are still so weak and recovery is still so touchy. All it takes is one negative news story and we're plunged right back into the darkness. It takes, I don't know, Uruguay comes out and bans Bitcoin, the markets will go into a panic. I would not be surprised. We're jittery, guys. We haven't really found that super strong support base in order to give us the strength for a bull run. But we did see here recently a bullish engulfing candle pattern. So that generally is a pretty positive signal. And we've seen, of course, that because Bitcoin is the market leader, a lot of the altcoins have followed almost exact suit with a similar pattern here in the candles. Now, I try not to spend a lot of time on technical analysis. I know there's a lot of other channels out there that they do a lot of technical analysis. And actually, I want to have Nicola Duke on here in the near future to talk about this OTC equation a bit more, but also to really give you guys some hot details on how all of these, some tips and tricks basically for technical analysis. But I'm much more convinced by fundamental analysis, and that's what I base most of my actions on in my crypto career. And look, there is a lot of money to be made in day trading. I don't do day trading, guys. I mean, once in a while, I will look around and I will see a cool opportunity, and I'll hop on that opportunity. And that's it. And I'll let that, play out, and then I'll get out. And I'll have a very specific plan for it, and I'll set my stop losses and be very strategic about it. A small percentage of people make an absolute killing on day trading because that's what they do. They spend all day trading, and they have a lot of experience in reading these charts, watching these charts, understanding these charts, and they get a real feel for the chart patterns, and it becomes like more of a second nature. If that's not you, if you're not there yet, but you want to be a trader, we'll start off with a couple $100 or whatever is a very comfortable small amount of money for you. Don't blast in all of your life savings. Okay, we're a crypto trader now. No, this takes a long time to get even halfway good at. Because I think the fundamentals are so much more important when it comes down to it. The day trading, that's great. And there's a whole crowd that that's what they do, man. But these indicators can still be useful for anyone who really just wants to look in and say, okay, is it a good time to get into this cryptocurrency? I think that's a really important thing as far as trying to understand the basics behind some of the technical analysis, is looking and going, okay, is this going to be a good time, or is this massively overbought? And I'm working on the crypto education course, guys, and it's so much fun building this course up, but it's still going to be a while. I'm starting to realize I'm going to have to take a few days off of making my kind of regular videos in order to be able to finish up the crypto education course for you guys. And so it's coming though, but I'm going to give you at least the basic breakdowns for a lot of people who I know may not know kind of the basics behind some of watching the Bollinger Bands and stuff like this. But there's some really simple things that you can just look into to understand if this is a good time to get into a project. Neil B asks, would you ever do an interview with Pied Piper? Honestly, I know like nothing about this project except that apparently it was on some TV show. I don't watch TV, but apparently it was on some TV show. Was it Silicon Valley? I know nothing about it. I don't know. Maybe. I'm open to having interviews with lots of people, but I know nothing about this project, to be honest. And I'd probably be much more likely to give priority for an interview because interviews take a long time, guys. And I love doing the interviews, and I think they give so much value to you guys. And I love giving value to you guys. And that's why there's been a few interviews that have just been not good. And I haven't published them because I feel like it didn't really add a lot of value for you guys to sit down and listen to. And so that's my real focus. And I've got this whole list of names here on my wall of like really awesome guests that I want to have on to talk about giving you guys just crazy amounts of knowledge. You know, people like Nicola Duke, who is just an expert at technical analysis and has this amazing view on the marketplaces and things. So yeah, something like that. And I get a lot of interview requests, guys, from a lot of projects that, yeah. Cliff says Chico Crypto did an interview with Pied Piper. I think somebody else did too. Who else did? I think Crypto Candor, she did. So yeah, if you want to see an interview with Pied Piper, there's already a few interviews out there. So I don't even need to do it, guys. There you go. It's already a cornered market. Okay. So we're looking at the quantum charts here. And this is just a very, very, very simple way for you to kind of look at things. Quantum is a project that I'm very bullish on in the long term. I think it's got great fundamentals. And we're going to go into thinking about some fundamentals here in just a minute, but you can just look very simply here, and you got that classic 50% reduction. Actually, if you take it here from the shadow, it's actually more like a 60% reduction, but if we just go from the top of the day, it's basically straight up 50% down at the moment. We have had lows, and I've been trying to stock up on quantum during these recent dips, but it's a project I'm very bullish on, and seeing this kind of strong pullbacks like this on projects with really strong fundamentals is just something to think about in terms of, hey, wait a second, maybe that's a project I want to take a look at. It's been much higher price-wise in the not-so-distant past. The fundamentals haven't changed on the project. It's just cheaper now. That's something to keep in mind. Of course, we're looking at the Bitcoin price charts relative here. And I think it's a question for you guys to answer yourselves as well is, do you want to get more Bitcoin, or do you want to get more dollars? It's a real question that you have to decide for yourself, because a lot of people are in it for the dollars, and a lot of people are in it for the Bitcoin. You can be in it for both. Personally, I kind of look at both. Some things I say, okay, well, I'd like to get X dollars back out of that because, you know, plane tickets. Well, actually, I actually bought plane tickets to San Francisco using cheap air, and I paid in Litecoin, which is pretty cool. Quantum is a scam, says Trump versus Putin. Would you like to qualify your statement? Because from all the investigation that I've done into quantum, very anti-scam. It's really easy to throw the name scam out there and say, hey, that's a scam. The burden of proof then becomes, of course, prove that that is a scam. And it's really easy, and at every single project I have ever talked about, with no exception, has been called a scam. Bitcoin being the number one that has been called a scam. It's a pyramid scam. It's a straight up scam. It's a bubble. So think about how we use our words, guys, because words have power. So let's go on to our next thought here. And this is actually a bit outdated right now, but I still think it's a very valuable chart to have a look at, because when you're thinking about what is the fundamental value of something, a lot of comparisons come into play. You know, the fundamental value of Bitcoin, we're at, I have a quick actual peek. What is the current market capitalization? Bitcoin, 131 billion, total crypto market, 350 billion. So you can see this was done when Bitcoin was at about a third of the current value. So this is a slightly old chart here. I'm sure it's an updated version, but it really just gives you that perspective on thinking of still how small the cryptocurrency markets are. And there's all these exciting projects doing exciting stuff out there. And the question then becomes, how far can crypto go? And when trying to think about the fundamental value behind something, well, you have to start to think about what's the real world application of whatever the heck this is I'm trying to invest in and put my money behind. So I've got a question from Spencer here. Banks are still blocking my crypto purchases. Any ideas on how to buy without a bank account? Ooh, interesting question, Spencer. Well, you can always try local Bitcoins. I wonder if they would block you on local Bitcoins or not. Set up an OTC trading desk, man. You can be the guy selling other people Bitcoin. Probably, unfortunately, it may be a case of having to switch banks because not all banks are going to be doing that. And there are some buying services that might let you get around that a little bit. I know Waves, for example, they have a decentralized exchange where you can actually deposit dollars and euros. So that's one thing to check out as well. There's a lot of little options out there. And I know we all tend to go towards the big exchanges first, but they're also the ones that are the most regulated. And like Coinbase, for example, pretty regulated. Miroslav wrote right back in on an earlier comment, I meant that Bitcoin is not a buy and sell like most cryptocurrencies, but only hope for a change to such corrupted nations. My point is not to make a few bucks, but to help a revolution like Bitcoin. Amen, Miroslav. Amen. I totally agree with you. You can make a few bucks off of Bitcoin, and we talk about that a lot here in the program. We also talk about the underlying value of the technology to make the world a better place for you and I. Because that's part of what it's about, guys. When you start to realize the application of a lot of these crypto projects and like Consensus, for example, with a Y, not a U, not the conference, but the guys who do all of these social impact projects all across the world, you start to realize, wow, there's massive application for this technology to really affect people's lives. And that's awesome. That is really a great thing. And we may not feel it so much in New Zealand or the United States. It's cool and we can invest in it, and there are a lot of decentralized applications that are being built that can do really cool stuff, right? But at the same time, you start running into other problems. So anyway, we're getting off topic of what to buy during the dip. So fundamental analysis, the intrinsic value of what these things are going to be worth in the long run. The crypto market got up to about $800 billion during the December-January bull run. The question to ask yourself, do you think that Bitcoin and all other cryptocurrencies combined, think about all those blockchain projects, all those developers, all those teams, all those partnerships. I mean, just look at VeChain alone and the stupid amount of really awesome partnerships they have. Just VeChain. And then you start to look around, and you go, wow, Aeon, they also have a bunch of great partners, and these guys have great partners, and this and that and that. And you start to realize a lot of business is going to start flowing in here, and you start to look at the OTC market, and you start to look at the different statistics coming out as far as what CEOs are looking to utilize blockchain, and blockchain will not always equate to cryptocurrency. That's something important to keep in mind. Maersk, for example, they're now using blockchain technology in their shipping, but it's a proprietary blockchain. They're not using a cryptocurrency. It is a distributed ledger, but it is not, Ethereum. They don't need to use Ethereum or an ERC20 token. They're just using their own proprietary blockchain. And there's a lot of business for that. And a lot of the platforms are offering one-stop shops for building your own blockchains. Neil, what are your thoughts on Morph and Investio? Huge fan from Auckland. Hey, Neil, how's it going, man? Invasio, I looked into it a little bit, and when I looked into it, actually, they were trying to raise way too much money. I know that they later on adjusted their hard cap, but I honestly haven't looked into it at all since then. So, and as far as Morpheus, again, haven't had much of a chance to look into it, but I know it has been trending a lot on social media recently. So it didn't, break any records at ICO. It took quite a long time to actually sell out, but the project seems very valuable without a doubt. Now, the intrinsic value of cryptocurrencies, where are we going to be? Could we see $1 trillion market cap by the end of the year? I think it's very possible. And a lot of the numbers that have been thrown around indicate that we're heading in that direction. And hey, look, this is where technical analysis falls on its feet, is because no one can predict the future. And if technical analysis could predict the future, well, then whoever could do it would be an overnight billionaire. But it doesn't quite work like that. It's an indicator of trend patterns of where we might end up. And I feel like this technology is just starting. So the intrinsic value of these crypto projects, especially ones with really, really great fundamentals like Wanchain or Icon or Bitcoin or Quantum, amongst many, many others, many of the ones that are in my portfolio, for example, they have real potential to have massive success in the long run. Bo Vosh asks, what do you think of Komodo and the atomic swaps with BarterDex? I have not had a chance to test out BarterDex. I like Komodo. I like what they do. I would love to use BarterDex. I just haven't had a chance to do it. When I finally, back a few months ago, I tried using it. I just kept having trouble with it as far as it just wouldn't load on my computer and all this stuff. And so I kind of shelved it, and I've been in contact with the team a little bit, and they said, yeah, we're working on trying to make it better, so check back with us really soon, and hopefully the user experience will be massively improved over there. Cherna homie, do we need more ICOs? Yes, we do. We need the right ICOs. And this is what becomes a bit tricky, is trying to find the ones that are really bringing something new. How many freelancer platforms are there now? I feel like a bajillion. And that's not to say that a couple of those may not really kill it, because they could. They really, really could. And this is what it kind of comes down to, is that a lot of these ICO projects are not going to do well. A certain percentage of them are going to do really well. Of that certain percentage do really well, a lot of those are still going to die because the markets will simply not support them, or they won't have a compelling enough message, or there'll be too much competition within the market. Hey, Lark, love your work. Just found out about the Squirrel Superannuation Fund that allows crypto investment for retirement. Cool. Nice stuff. Zach asked, could Hashgraph be a blockchain killer? I have not had enough of a chance to look into Hashgraph, man, so I really can't give you a really good answer on that. I know there's always from what I understand about Hashgraph, is I don't think it's going to be a blockchain killer. I think it's going to be a supplementary situation where we have lots of different parallel technologies running next to each other. So we're going to have Hashgraph, we're going to have Holochain, we're going to have all kinds of blockchain-based projects, because they're all offering something a little bit different. But again, I'm not an expert on Hashgraph by any means. Salvatore, long time no chat, been way too busy, miss ya. Just putting in my Bitcoin prediction for the end of the year is 65,000 by 2019. Dip price 25K. It's a pretty good dip price. Gadget to talk about the titanium scam. You introduced Michael Stoller to this live AMA. Gadget, well, I didn't actually do a live AMA with Michael. It was a pre-recorded chat. I mentioned this in my news video the other day, where we talked more in depth about what happened with titanium, and perhaps that's part of looking at the underlying fundamentals of any given project, is get out there, do your own research before investing in anything. Never, trust anyone who's going out there and shilling things saying, hey, this is going to be the next big thing. This is going to go to the moon. 100x for titanium. I never said that on my show. I'd like to point that out. I simply hosted him for an interview. My one failing, if anything, was not being more critical on him during the interview and after the interview. When asked about it, I said, I don't know, I'm not really convinced to buy titanium, and I don't really, it's not something I'm invested in, etc. And that's what I said. But had I been a little less diplomatic, I would have said, I think the guy's a clown, and it's not something I would recommend anyone investing in. But hey, DYOR, I think it's definitely a situation of when I have interviews on, the interviews are not meant to be endorsements. They're simply meant to provide you guys with information. You're the ones who at the end of the day are sitting in front of your computers pushing the button to buy or sell something. And it really comes down to that. If you watched that interview, did you go, wow, I'm super convinced by this guy? If that's the case, did you actually go out and research it after that? Or did you just see one interview and go research? Because that's not enough. Interviews are supplementary, right? I like watching interviews, but I also like to get out there and read what the information is behind that. Because I think that's a really, really important part, guys. You actually have to get in there and go, okay, have I read the white paper? Have I seen what other people are saying about this project? And then watch a few interviews. This is all part of your homework for doing your own investments, guys. Anything else is just lazy. And then if it comes back to a situation of, blaming someone else later on for your investment, this is the decentralized revolution of the future, guys. There is no one to blame but yourself for doing bad trades or for not doing your own research or for getting lazy and not doing your own research. I know, though, I do have a certain responsibility to perhaps call a little more BS when I do see BS, and I'm trying to do that, guys. It's certainly a situation of, moving forward, trying to be a bit tougher in my interviews. I'm certainly trying to work on that. I want to get a little more crypto hard talk, but it's hard sometimes, too, so I try to only have the good projects on. But anyway, besides the point, I want to talk about a few of the things to keep in mind for fundamental analysis when you're looking at a project. So we've already talked about day trading. Most people get wrecked because unless you really have the time to dedicate to learning it, then you should probably be looking at the holding strategy, which is where you try to get things when they're low and sell them when they're high. And that is the important thing. But you have to also be strategic. You got to know when to get out, when to get in and when to get out. It's one thing to buy it, but it's a whole other thing to think, okay, well, when will I actually exit from this project later on? What do I want out of it, right? Some of these things, they'll get really exciting and have some really great run-ups. Well, that might be a good opportunity to start at least taking some profits out of it. So, Trump versus Putin, Lark, you don't talk on quant stamp. It is simply a question, my friend, of there are so many projects, it's really hard to keep up with all of them. But you're right, I haven't actually mentioned quant stamp in quite a while. Make sure I'm following them on Twitter, so I make sure to see their updates. Certainly not a question of not liking quant stamp. I like quant stamp. I just don't mention them because there's way too many projects to mention them all the time. But I'll have to have a look into it and see what those guys are up to again. Okay. I'm going to run through a few thoughts to ask yourself when thinking about how to analyze the fundamentals of a project. I'm not going to answer any questions for a few minutes, so don't get distracted. Now, some fundamental analysis ideas. Be ready for volatility. Many of the projects out there are going to fail. You have to realize when you're investing in an ICO, you're investing in something that's recently came out of ICO, you are investing in a startup company quite frequently. Or you're investing in something that might have unproven technology. That technology might fail. Or you're investing in a cryptocurrency that has a very low network effect, so it's open to minor attacks. Be ready for this. What is the intrinsic value of the project you are investing in? It can be a little harder to say with crypto because the market's so new and some of these projects, they're just coming to market. What is the final valuation of WanChain? 5 years from now, what will WanChain be worth? It's $1 million question. And it's really, really hard to say. Will they be the ones to succeed, or will in 6 months' time 10 new projects come out that just crush all of this year's projects? It's possible. Do you really understand what it is that you're buying? And I think this is perhaps one of the most fundamental questions when thinking about how to fundamentally analyze a project. Do you actually understand what you're buying? Or did you just buy it because, well, I just bought Ripple because I saw it on the Ellen DeGeneres show? No! You have to understand what you're buying, guys. This is your money. This is your money. There are no replays. Once the market moves, the market's down. That's it. And if you don't do your own research, there's no one to hold your hand. This is something you absolutely have to understand. Know what you're buying. And if you don't know what you're buying, then why the heck are you buying it? What is the real world application of the thing that you're buying? What problem does it actually solve? Does it actually need the blockchain, and does it actually need its own native token? Now, I'm quite optimistic on the tokenization of everything aspect. That being said, I still do see some ICO projects come through because, man, I just see them, I go, wow, you really don't need to have a token for this. Like a dApp would suffice just fine. Although, there is a lot of benefits to be had from the simple fact of being able to instantly send those payments across and not have chargebacks. And that in itself is quite simple but quite powerful. But still, these are questions you should be asking yourself about this. Would you use it? Or could you see someone or some business using it? That's an interesting question. Because a lot of the projects, for example, that I might invest in, and of course not financial advice, guys, but a lot of these projects that I might invest in are, I might not really use them. Like, I don't plan on building my own dApp on top of WanChain, but I'm probably going to use some of the projects that are built on top of WanChain. And I guess I will use WanChain to potentially invest in some of those ICOs that come out on WanChain. But especially when you start looking down at the dApps, you really have to start asking yourself, would this be something I use? And a lot of the dApps that I cover on the show are really ones that I would actually potentially like to use myself. You know, and that doesn't always mean that they're going to be approved of by the market, but I feel they have some kind of interesting value. But those are questions you have to answer for yourself, because there are thousands of projects out there. This year we're aiming to have 5,000 ICOs, potentially more. You're spoiled for choice. And you have to be really strategic, deliberate, and patient. Some other questions you might want to think about. Crypto Rose. Does John McAfee approve? I feel like that's the opposite. If McAfee's an advisor on the project, you might want to go the other direction. I don't know. Look, McAfee, he's out there. He's his own wild, crazy, unique beast. Take everything he says with a big grain of salt, guys. Because remember, he only a couple of weeks ago, you know, he was promoting Pink Taxi, which had basically straight up ripped their ICO website off of somebody else, and he's supposed to have a team researching this stuff for his $500,000 per tweet fee, but apparently he doesn't, otherwise they would have found that. So, big grains of salt, guys, but McAfee, he's okay in my books. He's a crazy character, that's all. Okay. Does the company have any existing experience? Now, this is not always a complete indicator, because there are new entrepreneurs that come onto the scene, and those people might be able to offer something really good. Think of, okay, let's take Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. That was Mark Zuckerberg's first business. I mean, maybe he had a lemonade stand or something beforehand, and I'm not an expert on Mark Zuckerberg by stretch of the imagination, but to realize that a lot of people would have looked at that and go, just some college kid, what's he know, blah, whatever. And that's it. That's actually a thing where you see, you can't be too pessimistic, but at the same time, you do want to look for teams that have experience. So if the lead of the team, he's this great mind and he does these cool things, well, maybe he doesn't have the business experience, but he better damn well have someone on board that does have business experience. Because if you're going to be raising $30-40 million worth of investor money for an ICO, for example, then you seriously have to have someone on board who knows how to deal with that money. Because there's going to be bills to be paid, there's going to be wages to be paid, there's going to be marketing to spend on. You have to have people on board with that experience. How is this DApp plan on making money? What's their long-term growth strategy? What's the current market like for that? Somebody from the Skycoin team asks, do you have an interview with Synth today? No, I'm not interviewing Synth anytime soon. What is the current market like for your project that you're looking at? So, platforms, for example. Platforms are definitely a situation where there's a lot of them coming, but there's potentially room for a lot more of them. Best Crypto Channel, Synth is asking me about an interview. Interesting thing. Well, there was an interview arranged, but I had to cancel it because other things came up, unfortunately. But no, Synth won't be on the channel anytime soon. I'm happy to have Synth back on one of these days, though, but there is no interview arranged with Synth from Skycoin today. So that's whoever's got that has got the wrong facts on. You might want to think about the red ocean, blue ocean strategies. So the red ocean, is this a competitive thing? And I look at, for example, the freelancer blockchain projects. They are competing in a red ocean. They're trying to be blue ocean because they're trying to come in and say, well, but we're using blockchain to do it, so it's kind of different. And yes, but at the same time, guys, you see a situation where you have 20 blockchain freelancer platforms and you also have 20 non-blockchain freelancer platforms that are kind of working okay. And the blockchain could offer a lot of great potential for freelancers to get paid quicker and all these different things. But there's a lot of competition going on. Or are you coming in with a strategy that, like, oh, you know what? Is a project that I just freaking love, and I don't think it's getting anywhere near the amount of press that it kind of deserves, is when it comes down to it, Pigsby. You know, the guys from CryptoKitties, and I know CryptoKitties is silly, but they contacted me and they said, hey, you know, this is going to be the next big thing. Like, get out of here, CryptoKitties. What are you guys talking about? But then I looked in and I thought, oh, wait a second, that was actually pretty interesting. And, you know, I may not be into these kind of games and stuff like this. And I looked at Pigsby and I was like, wow, that's actually really cool. That is something new. It's innovative. It's interesting. It's an interesting use of cryptocurrencies. It's an interesting use of educating kids on technology, of educating kids on financial literacy. That's interesting. That's something new. And we might see 20 copycat projects come on in the near future, but it's the first one. Ethereum was the first one, and a lot of the new blockchain platforms we see coming on, they are offering modifications, they're offering new ideas. It's me, Boss Lady. Coding for kids, love the idea. Well, that would be an interesting one too. Make a video game to secretly teach kids coding and reward them in cryptocurrencies. There you go. Next $50 million ICO, guys. You heard it here first. Someone's going to do it now. Is it a growing or a dying industry? Growing industries, for example, the freelancer industry is growing. And even though there's a lot of competition, it is actually a growing industry as more of these people globally get access to the internet and get access to these freelance economies. Or is it a blockchain project that's trying to put CDs on the blockchain, or they're trying to put carts and buggies on the blockchain? Is it trying to bring new tools to an old and dying industry? Or is it an old, dying company that's trying to create some excitement by throwing blockchain on the end of their name? We saw, of course, Kodak do that. Hey, we're going to do a blockchain thing. Somebody in the marketing department said blockchain's really exciting. Oh, goodness. What about the roadmap? Is the roadmap of the project, and this is not just for ICOs, guys, this is for any project you look at, is there actually clear goals set out for it in the near future? Is the coin dead? This is for some of these older projects, and there's a lot of projects that are still listed on CoinMarketCap. People might look at it and go, wow, it used to be worth like, $10 a coin, and now it's like 2 cents a coin. That's a great buying opportunity. I'm going to load up. I'm going to be a whale. Well, there's also like a $500 a day volume because it's dead. Coins do die. Projects do die. Developers get hit by trucks. Developers simply abandon projects and go to other things. That doesn't mean the project gets delisted. The idea of decentralization is that so long as someone keeps running the network, it might still be up and running. Anyway, you have to watch out for that because they don't offer good potential as investments. Not financial advice, of course, guys, but who are the people behind it? Are they willing to answer tough questions, or do they run from tough questions? Do their public profiles check out? And that can be a hard one sometimes too, because a lot of Chinese projects, for example, they may not have LinkedIn. And so you might have a guy that's really very capable, but you may not be able to see that in his public profile that you're able to access, or it might simply be a question of you just don't see that information because it's all in Chinese, man. Doesn't mean that that project's any worse than any others. Just means that they've got a lot of their information in Chinese. What are you going to do? And some developers run off with the money. That does happen too, Radiant Lunatic, without a doubt. These crazy guys. Okay, another question to think about is, what about the hype? What kind of hype is there actually around the project? What are people saying about it? What are their social media accounts like? Do they actually have big followings on Telegram? Do they have big followings on Twitter? And do those followings actually match with engagement levels? Because there's a lot of bot subscribers and bot views and all this BS going on. So you have to look. If you see a YouTube video that has 130 or 140,000 views and not a single dislike, those are bot views. And I see it happen a lot. So be critical. Ask yourself these questions. Are your emotions driving you in this situation? Are you feeling that classic FOMO? Oh my God, if I don't buy this coin today, it's just gone up by 300% and I'm going to miss out. Oh my God, everyone else is getting rich and I'm not. No! Relax. Relax. Relaxing, of course, is the most important thing to do. Okay. Of course, don't get emotionally attached to these things as well. Next up, of course, is the GitHub. GitHub is the code repository. Now, open source projects are awesome because you can actually just go and look and see what kind of activity there has been. And if you don't understand any coding or anything like that, that's fine. I'm far from an expert myself, but you can at least go and understand what's there. If you go and look and the only thing on their GitHub is a white paper, well, that doesn't give a lot of confidence. But if you go and you look and say, wow, there's 500 different code commits here from a large range of the developers, cool. That's at least a positive thing. And then you can at least take that and go and say, okay, go and find what other people are saying about their code. Or if you don't know code, you can always find someone who does know a little bit about code and say, hey, can you have a look at this and let me know what you think? Remember, it's your money. It's your money, guys. Okay. What about the news cycle of a project? What is the situation with the news cycle? Is there a lot of hype going on at the moment? What is actually behind that hype? Is it actually delivering something? One thing that we see with projects is they will make an announcement on Thursday. We're going to make an announcement next week. Next week comes. Our big announcement is that we're going to have a conference where we're going to make an even bigger announcement than their announcement that we're making right now. What? try and understand what are the actual stories that are in the news cycle and what are they actually saying about it. That's one thing to keep in mind as well. Also, do keep in mind, though, that some of the big players can manipulate the news cycle, and that it becomes so tricky at some of these stages, because if you look at the effect of someone like Jamie Dimon to come out and talk trash on Bitcoin, or you think it's any coincidence that like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and all these guys were quoted so many times talking trash on Bitcoin? Think about it. Just think about it for a minute. There is a real potential to manipulate the news cycle, and that's just for Bitcoin. If you start to go down to like the little things, just some dude posting something on Reddit can start an absolute panic. Because people don't do their own research. Somebody gets on there, they write something that sounds convincing, everyone goes, oh my god, this must be the biggest scam ever, I'm getting out of here, I'm selling my coins. And then that guy who wrote the Reddit post, he's waiting on the other side with his buy orders in, waiting for all those people who get panicked to do it, to sell to him, so he can get cheap stuff and then sell it back to you later for more money. That's how it works. Also, of course, useful to have a small cash reserve on the side to enable the buying of dips, or to have a strategy set up to dollar cost average in, for example, where you put in, I don't know, $50 each or whatever into the coins that you like once a month, for example. How established is the project? What is the risk to reward level? If you're looking at the top coins, for example, the risk is lower. It's still cryptocurrency, so it's still volatile. It's still pretty uncertain, without a doubt, what can happen. But if you're looking at some of the top coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum and, WAN chain, whatever, well, in those situations, a little bit less risk. If you look down the trail, though, and say, okay, this is cryptocurrency number 300 on CoinMarketCap, it's got like a $20 million market cap, well, your reward potential is much higher, but your risk potential is also quite high as well. Something to keep in mind, guys. Is Waves better than PivX, says Francisco. They do very different things. They do very, very different things. PivX is really just focused on being a privacy coin, whereas Waves is setting itself up to be a platform. Francisco, again, is WAN chain better than PivX? They're all better than PivX. No, PivX is better than everything. No, of course, I'm being silly. Look, again, different things. WAN chain is using ring signatures. PivX is using zero coin protocol. They're different ideas towards privacy. PivX is focused on just being money, whereas WAN chain is also bringing in, private smart contracts and all that fun stuff too. So different things. It's if all cryptocurrencies are a basket of fruit, PivX is an orange. The other thing's an apple. The other thing's a banana. It's such a situation of the apples and oranges comparison, of course. Okay, guys, I think we're going to finish up there for today. I know I haven't answered a lot of questions in the last 20 minutes, but I really, really appreciate all you guys for getting out here, participating in the conversation here in the chat. This is awesome. I love seeing what goes on up here. I love seeing all the ideas being traded back and forth. And I know a lot of you guys are asking about all kinds of different coins, like IODEX, for example. I saw it got listed somewhere the other day, but I don't know anything about it. There are so many different things coming out all the time, guys. It is impossible for one person to keep up with any of this. There's probably 5 new projects a day listed, and it takes a whole day at least to research a project. If you really want to know about how IODEX compares to IOTA, there's no better person to ask than yourself. Go out there, read both the white papers, use all of these ideas, and this is just the start of it, guys, but use all of these ideas that I've been talking about here for the last 20 minutes to get out there and analyze the project yourself. That's the whole idea here, guys. You got to have the tools yourself to be able to make your own decisions at the end of the day. That is all from the Crypto Lark for today, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and join the chat. Thanks, of course, to the moderators as well for helping keep it all clean and civil. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time.